Welcome to Beyond the Lab, a series by the Office of Career Development within the Biomedical Research, Education, Training Department of the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. My name is Kate Stewart, and I'm here today with Michelle Mazei-Robison. Thank you so much for coming. Tell me about what you did here at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, sure. So I came in through the IGP program in 1999, and then I joined the pharmacology program, and I was in the lab of Randy Blakely. So I kind of worked with transporters and things like that. And then I graduated in 2005 and then went on to a postdoc afterwards.
Okay, so yeah, tell us about your time after Vanderbilt.
Right, so it was, I did kind of, I guess, that traditional academic path. So I took a postdoctoral position at UT Southwestern with Eric Nestler and was there for about a year and a half. And then he actually decided to move his lab to New York City. But I made that transition with him and stayed in the same lab and continued that postdoc, which went well. So near the end of that, I decided I really wanted to pursue an academic research career and applied for positions, and that's how I got where I am today, where I'm an assistant professor at Michigan State.
Okay, so tell me about your first couple years as faculty. What was that like?
Yeah, it's very different. So, and I was lucky because I was coming from a big lab, so I had a lot of colleagues that had gone out, and they tell you and give you a lot of advice what it's like starting your lab, because it is very different than even starting a postdoc or going into a new field. And one of the things that's a big change is that, it's kind of all you, right? So you sit in your office and you kind of have to do everything. You have to order, you have to write everything, you have to hire people. So there are a lot of skills like that were learned. And it was just, the first couple of months feel really slow because you're working a lot, but you don't see a lot coming out of it. And then all of a sudden, once you walk into the lab and see all the equipment and you have people there, it becomes real. So, within 6 months, it feels very real, but those first couple months are definitely this process of just kind of slowly building up this thing.
Okay, so tell me sort of your percentages of, if you do any teaching or research or mentoring, sort of what those percentages are.
Right, so I'm in a kind of tenure track position, and it's a state university, so I do have some teaching requirements, but it's a research intensive position. So since I'm in about my 4th year, I'm just now getting to the kind of steady level of my teaching, which is I'm responsible for about half a course a year. So I teach in the fall semester basically, and then I really don't teach much the rest of the year. I just give kind of little lectures here or there. So the majority of my time is still spent doing research, and the difference now being is that I'm not so much the one doing research, but it's the graduate students and the postdocs in my lab that are doing that. So a lot of my time now is actually spent mentoring, overseeing their projects, writing grants, being on committees and things like that. So that's kind of where the majority of my time is, often in my office talking with people about science.
Okay, so how is your role a very good fit for you and your sort of interest level and your skill set?
I think it's good. I think I definitely like kind of the freedom and the independence. I like that, every week I decide essentially what I'm going to do and what's going to go on. So it can be a little bit scary sometimes, making all the decisions and thinking about projects, but in the end I really enjoy that, and I like being able to direct that and kind of direct my schedule and those things. And the other thing that I really like about it is I really like being in an academic setting. I really like my colleagues. I like my department. I like going to work and talking with people. And so that's always a good feeling too. When you like to go in and you like the people that you're working with, it makes a huge difference.
Okay, good. So tell me about some things you had to learn after you left Vanderbilt that maybe you didn't know, even in your graduate training and your postdoc, that you had to learn immediately.
Right. So I think in my postdoc, it was mainly, strengthening or kind of getting extra research skills, but also just building kind of that scientific network. So, going to kind of a larger lab, I was able to meet lots of different people and kind of form, a lot of colleagues that really helped in just when I started applying for jobs, knowing people kind of across the country. So kind of further developing all of those things was really key. And then trying to get some more experiences writing grants, things like that is really critical in that transition period. And then now that I've transitioned to the faculty position, probably the biggest difference is just management.
Right.
How do you hire people? How do you interview? How do you mediate conflict in the lab? Like kind of all of those things are definitely skills that you get some exposure to, training people in the lab, but it's definitely different kind of being that boss-like person. So.
Right. So the academic job search, you're done with it.
Yes.
Tell me some things that you would tell current PhD students and postdocs, like if they were wanting to pursue that track.
Right. I think one key thing is, that I think everybody always hears the bad side of it, and you know, it's true. It is difficult. There aren't a huge amount of jobs, but they are there. And I think the main thing to keep in mind is not to try. If you're really interested, try and just apply as widely as possible, and because you never kind of know exactly where you might end up or what might be a good fit until you get there. So I think just keeping an open mind and not closing it off before you've even kind of put yourself out there. Sure. Because again, there are really good positions, and sometimes you just have to have a little bit of patience and persistence. But with that, a lot of times, you know, you can have that kind of career if you want it.
Yeah. Okay, so sort of your last question, now that you're on the other side, what are your words of wisdom for graduate students and postdocs, just as they are finishing up grad school and looking for a job next?
Right. Just to, you know, kind of keep the big picture in mind. I think especially at the end, you can kind of get, you know, really down into a narrow hole, and it all feels like everything's closing, and it also sometimes can feel like all of these decisions are really huge and it's forever, you know. And what you start to realize is that, you know, it's often kind of a winding path. You might choose a postdoc and that lab will move, and so there are a lot of possibilities that you can't really plan for, but to just keep in mind that just keep moving forward and feel good about the choices you're making at the time, and it'll be okay.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kate.